Hi everybody, welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. There's a new article on Deseret News called New Research on Astrology, Tarot Cards, and Fortune Tellers is Full of Surprises. I want to share the findings of this survey that was done by Pew Research Center. And then at the end of the video, I have some quotes that I want to share with you about astrology. I primarily focus on second coming things here on the channel. And a lot of times people will say, well, why don't you focus more on the actual message rather than the numbers in the message or focusing so much on the second coming? And the thing is, it doesn't have to be one or the other. You can do both. And my channel tends to be a metaphorical blender, making spiritual smoothies where a lot of you guys are looking for the exciting things, which is understandable. We all want exciting stuff. And so you mostly gravitate toward second coming things or things that are new, shocking. And I think that that's great. You don't have to choose one over the other. But we also do need to focus on spiritual things and doctrines. And so I try and blend it all together and include as much doctrine as I possibly can. And sometimes make videos that are something other than second coming content. And I think that this is really important. Even if it just affects one person, changes your mind, helps you come closer to Christ, then this video will have been worth it. So please pay attention carefully, especially if you're involved in astrology, the New Age, energy healing, things like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it. And then we're going to go to the Pew website, look at some stuff there. And then, like I said, I have some quotes at the end of the video, one from Brigham Young and the other one from a Young Women's Manual. Okay, a new report from Pew Research Center found that religious identity doesn't seem to influence engagement with astrology, tarot cards, or fortune tellers as much as you might assume. Quote, there's a lot of talk about spirituality versus religion, but at the highest level, the sharers who believe in these New Age practices and consult them aren't too different between the religiously affiliated and religiously unaffiliated, said Chip Rotolo, the lead author of Pew's report. The survey showed that other factors, including age and sexual orientation, are better predictors of engagement with these practices. Quote, being LGBT is not only a predictor of believing in astrology or consulting astrology, it's one of the strongest predictors, Rotolo said. Which I guess that's not too surprising, but it kind of is. Okay, later on, as Rotolo noted, LGBT people of all ages stand out in the survey even more than young adults. Americans who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender are more likely to participate in these practices, believe in them, and draw on them when making major life decisions. Quote, it is pretty striking to see that 28% of Americans overall who consult with astrology or horoscopes rise to 54% of LGBT adults. I can't think of many religious and spirituality measures where we've seen such large differences among the LGBT community, Rotolo said. So now let's head over to pewresearch.org, and the first thing that I have highlighted has to do with gender. It says 43% of women under 40 believe in astrology. And it's broken up into these two age groups. The younger one, which is 18 to 49, and then the older one is 50 plus. And it's pretty staggering, the difference between men and women. Women are about twice as likely to believe in astrology. And I've actually always wondered about this because I've seen this throughout my life. And I've always wondered why. And so I wanted to look into it a little bit. And I think I have a couple ideas. So I asked Grok, which is X's AI chatbot, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it touched on something that I think is probably right. Historically, women have been more involved in spiritual and intuitive practices, partly because these areas were accessible when institutional power structures like organized religion or science were male-dominated. Astrology and New Age beliefs, which emphasize personal intuition, emotional connection, and holistic well-being, may resonate more with women due to socialization that encourages emotional expression and caregiving roles. Now, I reject the idea that these characteristics of women are due to social conditioning or external factors. I think these things are inherently and innately a part of women. Now, there's two different groups of women I think that we need to think about when we're trying to answer this question. Why are so many of them attracted to astrology? So, the first type of woman that I think about is the genuine woman, not toxic, earnestly trying to find truth and live the best that they know how, who is just genuinely confused and misled by Satan. It makes me think about this presentation during the April 2022 General Conference during the women's session called You Are the Women He Foresaw. This is President Spencer W. Kimball's prophecy about the women of right now. And there's a particular phrase that really stood out to me when I first heard this. These are the words of President Spencer W. Kimball, read by Sister Camilla Kimball. Much of the major growth that is coming to the church in the last days will come because many of the good women of the world, in whom there is often such an inner sense of spirituality, and that's it right there, will be drawn to the church in large numbers. This will happen to the degree that the women of the church reflect righteousness and articulateness in their lives, and to the degree that the women of the church are seen as distinct and different in happy ways from the women of the world. And then it switches to President Nelson. My dear sisters, you who are our vital associates during this winding up scene, the day that President Kimball foresaw is today. You are the women he foresaw. Your virtue, light, love, knowledge, courage, character, faith, and righteous lives will draw good women of the world, along with their families, to the church in unprecedented numbers. And so, you see that this is a battleground. We know that the good women of the world will come to the church as long as the women of the church invite them, are a good example to them. But the adversary wants to stop that, and this is a great way to derail some of them. The good women of the world that are trying to do their best can be deceived by Satan, and he can use tools like astrology, the New Age, energy healing to fulfill that need of spirituality and connection and intuition and healing and all that stuff. He can provide an alternative. And so some are deceived both inside and outside of the church. Now, I think that's just one category of women. The other category would be women that are toxic, women that are narcissistic, psychopaths, controlling, seeking for power. I came across this article from NBC News. Astrology doesn't need to be scientifically proven to be empowering or feminist, which of course is about power. It's about power and control. These are the things that narcissists seek. The majority of people who consume astrology content are women, which is also not all that surprising. For one thing, astrology has always had feminist roots and icons. It empowers, quote unquote, women in particular to take more control over their future. It encourages us to learn more about ourselves and go confidently in the direction that makes the most sense for our well-being. So, if you're one of these types of women and you look at the church or you look at other churches and you think, oh, I want to feel special, I want to feel like I have, mystical powers, spiritual powers, then this is a very attractive alternative for you, because this is something that you can go to and essentially embrace a counterfeit to fulfill your need for power and control and feeling special. So this is just my own opinion, but I think that these are the two types of women that fall for astrology. The genuine women that are genuinely deceived, and then the controlling, toxic, psychopathic women that want power, control, and to feel special. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. So that's the difference between gender, and that could be one of the reasons why. Okay, and at this part, it talks about religion. Atheists, agnostics, white evangelical Protestants, and Jewish Americans are less likely than the general public to say they believe in astrology. The survey included respondents of many other religious backgrounds, including members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, widely known as Mormons, Muslims, Hindus, and Buddhists. But there are not enough respondents from these smaller groups to report on their answers separately. So, and that's too bad, because I'd be really interested to see what those results would be. But here you can see 27% of the religiously affiliated believe in astrology, and then for religiously unaffiliated, 32%. So it's pretty close. Religiously affiliated is a little bit less. And then within Christianity, they have a dash right here for Judaism, at least in 2017. In 2024, the more recent numbers, it's only 18%. And that's actually the lowest, aside from atheists, at 13%. But for Christianity, the ones that have the highest are Hispanic Catholic, Black Protestant, and then I guess just Catholic in general. And then after that, you have white, non-evangelical. Yeah, okay, so let's move on from that. There's just one more category here. Or sorry, not category. It has like these bullet points. Okay, so gender. Women are about twice as likely as men to believe in astrology, 35% versus 18%. Women ages 18 to 49 are especially likely to express belief, 43%. Age. Americans under 65 are more likely than adults 65 and older to believe in astrology. LGBT identity. LGBT adults are much more likely than adults who are not LGBT to believe in astrology, 43% versus 26%. That's a really big gap. Income. U.S. adults with lower incomes are about twice as likely as adults in the upper income category to believe in astrology, 37% versus 16%. I do have a theory about that as well. I think that if you're in a low income situation, you're looking to improve your situation, and it can probably lead sometimes to desperation, and you're looking for just anything that's going to help you out. And so people that are lower income are probably more prone to looking for alternative solutions to their predicament. Okay, ideology. Americans who identify as politically conservative are less likely than moderates and liberals to believe in astrology. No surprise there. Education. U.S. adults without college degrees are more likely than college graduates to believe in astrology. I feel like that's along the same lines as income. It's probably very similar. Also, I mean, I've noticed that people that don't really learn, and I'm not talking about college degrees or anything like that. There's people in this life that are continually learning, and people who are not. And that's going to affect the way that you view the world. If you're not continually learning, you're going to have a lot less data. You're going to have less of a grip on reality because you're not learning about this world. And so if you're not learning about this world, you're left to your own ideas and speculations and sometimes, maybe a lot of times, nonsense. Whereas if you put in the work and you try and learn anything, watch the news, read nonfiction books, or consume nonfiction content, then you're going to understand things better, and you're going to be less prone to these magical beliefs. You understand? It is really not a good thing to be unlearned. We should all, President Nelson has said that it's a duty for all of us as members of the church to learn and to educate ourselves. And just like having a low income where you're in a more susceptible position, I think it's the same thing if you're not learning, if you let yourself just stagnate. Okay, and then race and ethnicity. Black Americans are more likely than white and Asian Americans to believe in astrology. And that may go along with income, possibly education, although I'm not sure. Okay. So now let's go ahead and finish this up with a couple quotes. We're on my spreadsheet called Quotes A through Z. What's currently row 50 for astrology. There was one time a long time ago at the beginning of my channel that I had put together a bunch of quotes about astrology, but that was before I was doing the spreadsheet. So it's going to take me time to find those again, but I have this one from Brigham Young that I've already covered before on the channel, and then I have a new one that I found for this video from the Young Women Manual number 3. So let's start with President Brigham Young. This is from Journal of Discourses, Volume 3, pages 155 to 158. Again, many people in the city do not know whether astrology is true or not, whether it is of God or of the devil. Hence, they are liable to be deceived, as is every person unless they have the power of revelation within themselves. If there are any brethren here who have been studying astrology and they were called upon to speak, would they not say that they believe it to be true, to be a true science? They would. They testify that they know it to be true. But what does it do for them? It leads them into thousands of errors. Does God ever lead you into error? Is he mistaken when he reveals? No. When he sets you to make calculations and figures, I will ensure you that every sum will prove and come out precisely right. The Lord does not deceive people, but astrology and mesmerism do lead them astray. By the way, a while ago I did a video about energy healing specifically, and mesmerism was essentially an equivalent back in the days of Brigham Young. Continuing. How many deceptions are there in the world? Millions, for a great many spirits have gone forth into the world to deceive the people. Spirit wrappings are of the same class. Are they calculated to deceive the people? They are. Okay, and then we'll finish off with this new quote from the Young Women Manual 3. This is a manual from 1994, which doesn't do anything to its credibility. This is still the position of the church, but I just wanted to add this. Okay, so it says, show the poster you have prepared. Explain that it depicts some of the worldly philosophies and challenges young women face today. Have the young women name the worldly philosophies they can identify from the poster. Record their responses on the chalkboard. By the way, I hate chalkboards. Who is the author of these challenges and false philosophies? The answer is Satan. How can these philosophies hurt young women? Explain that Satan supports many false philosophies that deceive people and lead them astray. We do not have to be deceived, however. We are blessed to have scriptures and teachings of the modern prophets to combat each of the evil influences listed on the chalkboard. Okay, so it has these two categories. The first category is worldly philosophies, and then the second one is gospel principles and truths. So you have the gospel principle or truth, and then under worldly philosophies, you have its counterfeit or opposite. So I'll do it like this. So we have marriage, and then the opposite is divorce. We have parenthood, and then the opposite is no need to have children. The next one is sanctity of life, opposed to abortion. The next one is virtue and chastity, opposed to immorality. The next one is scriptures and good books, opposed to pornography. The second to last one is word of wisdom, opposed to smoking, drinking, drugs. And then the last one is astronomy as a gospel principle and truth. Astronomy opposed to astrology. And then it says number 8, astrology. Astrology pretends to tell fortunes by deciphering the influence of the stars in people's lives, which obviously also would include planets and whatever else. I don't know, comets. Ancient civilizations were frequently deceived by the snares of astrologers. Enlightened members of the church avoid these things, for they are of Satan. Astronomy is the science that studies the stars, their creation and motion. So this is astronomy opposed to astrology. the study of stars, of planets and everything else, their creation and motion. The greatest astronomers of history have been prophets like Moses, Abraham, and Enoch. They received their knowledge from the Lord himself. Quote, "The stars can't control your acts. God gave you free agency, and he does not allow even the stars to interfere with it. He is the creator of the stars, but he did not devise the peculiar cult of astrology." So I hope that if you're dabbling in these things, if you're flirting with it, or if you're deep into it, that you'll put it away. It's of Satan. It's designed to deceive you, to get you to do certain things, to help you make life decisions that are ultimately going to harm you and take you off the covenant path and further away from Christ. And again, it's really stunning when we think about it in this context about that struggle over a woman's inner sense of spirituality. The good women of the church can use that to attract women of the world into the church along with their families and inherit eternal life. Whereas Satan is going to come up with counterfeits and feel-good things to get you away from the church. There's a battle over this, a woman's inner sense of spirituality. Okay, that's going to be it for this one. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. Like this video if you liked it. Leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also, make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.